It wasn't a bad movie, you see. The real problem was the actors' strike preventing the stars from promoting it. Because...
Yeah, that hurt it. That is a legitimate reason, Dinker.
Truly, whenever Brie Larson opens her mouth to talk about Captain Marvel, she's an instant hit with audiences.
So she is fine with audiences. She is not good with dipshits like you who take every single fucking moment and put it under a fucking microscope and act like it's like some sort of man-hating subtlety or some fucking shit. Like, she is fine. Well, I mean, yeah, she's good looking, she's fine, but she's also just fine. Like, she essentially is a human being, and she has human being moments like everybody else, except she's put under a fucking microscope by you guys, and it's obnoxious.
Tom Cruise, that be you?
No, I'll be the first me, not the next Tom Cruise. Thank you very much.
Well, you know.
And if there's one thing with...
Oh, how dare she assert herself. What a fucking bitch. No, seriously, guys, what is this? Move on. Let's go ahead and hit the good old YouTube circuit. So like I said, I haven't actually seen the Marvels yet. I'm not seeing it till this weekend. But let's go ahead and look at some chud takes on it. Oh, 5 hours ago, Critical Drinker. 5 hours ago and 500,000 views. God, he's a fucking monster. Okay. The Marvels was doomed from the start. Right there. Okay. Let's check it out.
You know, it's always interesting to watch the reaction in the entertainment media complex when they run smack bang into a reality so irrefutable that no amount of cope, doublethink, spin doctoring, or manipulative, and that's a good thing, articles can possibly obfuscate it. That's right, the court of box office opinion has rendered its verdict on the Marvels.
That's right. Philip's bringing up a good point. Like, his followers are intense. I mean, lots of these guys, they have almost the same follower base, and it's like I want to like shake them out of this, because like, I mean, we talked about a little bit with Mark Hughes yesterday. Like, frankly, like these guys are like selling stuff to young adults, young men who don't have all of life figured out, and of course they don't have all of life figured out. You're a young man. I didn't have all of life figured out, and then they're essentially saying, "Oh, the problem isn't you, it's other people." And it's like, well, you need to understand the problem. It's not so much that the problem is or isn't you; it's that you're still figuring stuff out and being told that you don't have to figure stuff out. It's just other people who are wrong. It's just other people who are fucking with you. It's just other people who are keeping you down. It's not helpful. It's not good. And then people like Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic come in and monetize those people, make them think that, oh, the world is against them. And they do, like, because they're able to go from this media angle, they're able to kind of coax people into these alt-right pipelines. So pretty soon they're going into shit like Daily Wire. And then pretty soon they're members of the Proud Boys. It's all this sinister pipeline shit. Which is good. Why it's good to debunk it, especially when it gets really fucking popular.
Dear viewer, and their judgment has been harsh and unanimous. This movie is officially a flop. In fact, calling The Marvels a flop is a bit like saying that Movie Bob has some questionable opinions about the human race.
What was that take? Let's see, because I don't really have an issue with Movie Bob for the most part. The worst thing about viruses is they really... So is this like Nerdrotic? I'm going to randomly throw out there something about COVID. Just because fan base will dig it up. Sure, it's fun to think about, say, these people and literally all their viewers collapsing into coughing fits in the streets, but it might also happen to the 20 to 25% of the country that doesn't deserve to be in pain. So, I mean, okay, so I don't even know full context for this, but assuming I'm going to assume this is him essentially saying, hey, because it's the logical thing. Like, some people are refusing to get the vaccine, and, maybe I should just look up the full context for this, because I'm guessing this is from a couple years ago, and it says 3 hours ago. So is this from 3 hours ago? I don't fucking know. Thank you, Critical Drinker, for quickly giving me some research, because the research part of the streams are the best. Okay, so it's a lead tweet, so we don't know the full context, but the response to it was in 2020. So this was early pandemic. Very early pandemic. Okay. So essentially he's saying, hey, the virus is big, it's gonna spread out, but then, yeah. I guess it's just his way of saying he doesn't love everybody. And I kind of get that. I kind of get it.
Some questionable opinions about the human race. Yes, it's technically a true statement, but it doesn't really encompass the full magnitude of the problem. The movie recorded an embarrassing $47 million on its opening domestic weekend, by far the worst performance out of any Marvel movie ever.
Not by far. Not by far at all. Oh, let me bring this up real fast. So, the Marvel's open to $47 million. Now, there is a Marvel movie, and if you saw the stream yesterday, you know the answer. But if you didn't, we will treat it like you haven't. So, there is a Marvel movie that performed almost to exactly the same level. Now, Marvel's did underperform that as well, but not by a huge amount. So, The Incredible Hulk, back in 2008, opened to $55 million. So it's like talking like it was a huge difference. It's not. It performed below Incredible Hulk slightly, essentially.
Damn, man, even the Incredible Hulk managed to bring in $55 million, and that was...
Well, wait, you just brought it up? That's not by a huge margin, dude. That's like almost the same. Yes, it's less, but it's probably gonna track and make the similar amount to Incredible Hulk. Maybe it can surpass it, with the actors actually now going out and being able to promote it. I mean, with everything going on, with, dude, the strike hurt movie theaters. The strike happened, and you saw stuff like Barbie and Oppenheimer really spike up, and those came out almost as soon as the actors' strike started. But then, after that, it's like movie theaters fucking died. And you got some mild successes. You got your Mutant Mayhems. You got your Five Nights at Freddy's, and they did all right. But you didn't have any big movies during that period. And now we're just getting off the strike, and we still weren't fully recovered from the pandemic. And now the Marvels is out, and it's not doing great. Maybe it can pick up now that actors can actually promote it, because that definitely hurt it.
That was 15 years ago. Oh my goodness, who could possibly have predicted this? Well, everyone, as it turns out.
Oh, for fuck's sake. You guys love to take, credit for shit like this. How many videos were you guys talking about the original Captain Marvel being a flop? Oh, Robert Storms. He's definitely one of these guys, too. Captain Marvel will flop. God, I don't think he really has been relevant since, Captain Marvel, Marvel Studios' first... I don't even recognize this guy. First box office flop. Marvel preparing damage control for Captain Marvel flop. And that is fucking Tim Pool right there. He is not a no one. So it's all mixed in. It's tough to separate, but we've already come across a couple... So we've been able to find a couple of people who are saying it's going to flop. And that movie decidedly didn't, so just saying. When you guys literally say everything's going to flop, yeah, and then, one thing does flop, and you go, haha, you see, we were always right. It's it doesn't really mean anything. How many times have you guys said Kathleen Kennedy's been fired? I would love to know the actual number to that. Hell, you've done the same thing for Brie Larson. How many times has she been fired? You guys just say random shit, and then, you get one that finally goes, haha! this is proof of everything. No, it's not. It's proof that if you fucking, a broken clock is right twice a day. That's it.
Everyone except the people who made the thing, apparently. No matter how you try to spin it, the movie has been an unmitigated disaster, and now that it's impossible to lie their way out of that fact, the focus has shifted instead on finding a politically acceptable explanation that allows the studio to save face.
I would love to hear what your explanation is, Critical Drinker.
It wasn't a bad movie, you see. The real problem was the actors' strike preventing the stars from promoting it. Because...
Yeah, that hurt it. That is a legitimate reason, Dinker.
Truly, whenever Brie Larson opens her mouth to talk about Captain Marvel, she's an instant hit with audiences.
So she is fine with audiences. She is not good with dipshits like you who take every single fucking moment and put it under a fucking microscope and act like it's like some sort of man-hating subtlety or some fucking shit. Like, she is fine. Well, I mean, yeah, she's good looking, she's fine, but she's also just fine. Like, she essentially is a human being, and she has human being moments like everybody else, except she's put under a fucking microscope by you guys, and it's obnoxious.
Tom Cruise, that be you?
No, I'll be the first me, not the next Tom Cruise. Thank you very much.
Well, you know.
And if there's one thing
Oh, how dare she assert herself? What a fucking bitch. No, seriously, guys, what is this? Move on.
we can all agree on, it's that scripted, corporate-approved puff-piece interviews on late-night talk shows are where every thinking man goes to form their opinions about the latest film.
Oh yeah, no, these are absolutely puff pieces. I agree. But they're also good promotion. They get word out. They get discussions started. Yeah.
Releases. Or how about superhero?
Don't fucking watch it. Like, I swear to God, you guys, like, I don't watch that shit, and you guys are, like, addicted to it. And you're like, oh, this stuff's so bad. Let me show you the 200 fucking Brie Larson interviews I saw of her talking about, like, whatever movie she's promoting. It's like, why? Why would you watch that? That's dull. But you do it, and then you complain about it, and it's like, don't fucking watch it, dude. What, you think there's like an artistry to, like, you know, interviews and shit? Like, it's kind of like an ad. Like, you might get some funny moments, but it's kind of just an ad, guys. You know that, right?
Hero fatigue. That's a reliable excuse that can get conveniently wheeled out whenever a film flops. Marvel have just been putting out too many hits in recent years, proving the point.
Well, I mean, that was... You read that Variety article, you did a video on it, right, Will Jordan? So, that was actually one of the points brought up in that, like, the Disney heads were like, we want Marvel content nonstop. If there's a movie, we want a Marvel TV show every week in between all the movies, you know, leading up to the movies. And that's why there was so much for a little bit. And now they're finally slowing it down because Kevin Feige was overworked and it was just too much. That was one of the points in the Variety article. That, like, one of the things that need to turn ship around is, like, just do less stuff. Which they announced before that Variety article they're doing less stuff. Because it's just too fucking much. It's getting oversaturated. That's not an excuse. That's a fact.
Point that you really can have too much of a good thing. And then, of course, there's the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card for your shitty movie. Sexism and misogyny.
Well, fun fact, Will Jordan. Did you know sexism and misogyny exist and are real things? They are. Fun fact.
All of those toxic man babies out there just couldn't stomach the idea of a female-led movie and had to pummel it into the ground lest other humans of a female persuasion start getting dangerous ideas that they can do things for themselves.
Okay. Critical Drinker, you're not going to actually technically respond to this, but you know what? You might actually watch it. I know you guys have a tendency to watch my shit, so, like, you might actually watch it. So I'm going to bring up a tweet, and I just want you to, like, think to yourself, like, what is the point of this? Chris fucking Gore. Chris fucking Gore tries to sell himself as, like, some sort of serious critic and then just says this chud shit. I'm getting to a point where I despise this fucking piece of shit. But anyways... Turning Marvel Star Wars into girl brands will prove to be one of the costliest decisions in the entertainment industry. The fuck? Girl brands? So, like, this year, three Marvel movies. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I know the Wasp is in the title, but like she's like the fourth most important character. The lead is Paul Rudd, easy. Guardians of the Galaxy, you could say that's more of a mixed thing, but like Chris Pratt gets first run, that's a white guy. And now we got the Marvels. So 2 out of 3 movies this year star white guys, middle-aged white guys. And then last year, it was Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I'm pretty sure Benedict Cumberbatch, a middle-aged white guy. Thor: Love and Thunder. Pretty sure Chris Hemsworth's a middle-aged white guy. And then we get fucking Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Again, 2 out of 3 movies starring middle-aged white guys. Like, what the fuck about that is girl brand? And add to it even more. There have always been prominent women character in comic books. There have always been women leading their own titles in comic books. I don't know if you've heard of a little character called, I don't know, fucking Wonder Woman. One of the most iconic comic book characters of all fucking time. Like, literally, like, you pull over a grandmother who's never, ever read a comic book. She's gonna know who the fuck Wonder Woman is. Everybody knows who Wonder Woman is. Like, the idiocy of this take blows my goddamn mind. Just to no fucking end. And do you want to, like, argue that, like, oh yeah, no, this is just a normal take. This is a reasonable take. No, this is bullshit. This is some dude, like, listen, I don't think Chris Gore is genuine. I think he is selling this, frankly, to insecure dudes. He is selling this idea to insecure dudes that, yeah, listen, the problems out there is that, like, girls are taking over your territory. There's this stuff that's sacred to young men, and girls are taking it over. And it's such fucking bullshit. It's absolute fucking bullshit. We're all human beings. It's all nice to get everybody represented. And I brought this up before, and I'll bring it up again. When I was a teenager, reading comic books, I would have loved to have a girl who didn't think I was a loser for reading a fucking comic book. Like a girl I could actually talk about comic books to. Oh my god, that would be the sexiest thing ever. Like the idea of we can't let women into these spaces because then we'll get fucking cooties or some shit. It's the dumbest argument ever. It's beyond idiotic. And that's my rant about it. Alright, Dinker, what's gonna be your, I'm sure, not sexist or misogynist take?
Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
Be silent.
Oh, he used Anita Sarkeesian. No one's ever referenced Anita Sarkeesian before. Dude! Anita Sarkeesian is so fucking topical. Like, in 2023, Anita Sarkeesian clip, fucking banger. No one's ever seen that before. Good job, Will Jordan. Fucking timely references, man. Good job.
Keep your forked tongue behind your teeth.
It's mostly bullshit, of course, and it either ignores or misrepresents the multitude of actual reasons why this movie was practically doomed from the start. But
are you gonna get to those actual reasons? Like, actors not being able to promote it? Yeah, that seems like that probably impacted it. Movie theaters not being fully recovered yet from COVID? Yeah, that probably impacted it. But apparently those aren't the actual reasons. So you're gonna get to your actual reasons?
Hey, if the access media aren't interested in calling it like it is, then I guess the drinker will have...
And he just shows that clip. He just shows this clip that, I swear to God, you know what, if I were to criticize this clip now, because, I get the point of this clip. This clip is just to show women being badass. But I would criticize it and say, I don't like how they're just, walking out. I think what they should have done is kind of do an Avengers splash page type deal. Like you see lots of times, in Age of Ultron, you get that splash of the Avengers diving into action. They should have done that just with all the women characters. Just all of them, diving into action, all in action poses. Just diving into a fight. I think that would sell it so much better. Because as it was, even people like me were like, it seems a little forced. But, like, I get it. Like, yeah, this is them, like, saying, hey, you know, women superheroes are awesome, too. And let's give them their moment. Because, let's face it, women superheroes hadn't, like, there's been one MCU movie starring a woman superhero when this scene actually happened. And that movie happened, like, a couple months before this scene. We definitely needed more. And it's one of those things where it's like, I think artistically it could have been done better, but like the reasons behind it, I get 100%. Absolutely do that. But yeah, like this scene happened and like people like Critical Drinker's brain just fucking broke and they had to fucking freak out over it. Oh my god! Vagina's on screen! Oh!
Calling it like it is, then I guess the drinker will have to step in and do their job for them. So strap in as I break down the real reasons why the Marvels flopped. 1, it's part of a dying brand.
So you just rephrased comic book fatigue as Marvel is fucked. Because that's just fucking comic book fatigue. Lots of people made that argument. And I'll be blunt. People have been making that argument for the past 15 years. Is there comic book fatigue to a degree? Yes. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist, because it does to a degree. But here, you want to know a fun thing about comic book fatigue? The second there's a really good movie, like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, all that fatigue just gets thrown out the window. It doesn't fucking matter, because you just got a great fucking movie.
You don't need me to tell you that the MCU
and Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness was solid. Just get over it, man, I swear.
has been in decline for several years now.
Okay, you're showing Loki and Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, 2 projects that, to my understanding, have done quite well. Now, obviously, we don't have streaming numbers for Loki, so we don't know how well that did. Multiverse of Madness made almost $1 billion, dude. That's not an example of a failing brand at all.
Partly caused by a meandering, fragmented, and unengaging narrative that doesn't really feel...
Again, the narrative in the first 3 phases of just Thanos popping up and being sinister, and that was essentially your whole narrative. I mean, you did have Infinity Stones pop up, that was kind of about it. Like, it was a pretty broken narrative until we got, honestly, to Infinity War and Endgame, and it came together. Part of this is just seeing how it comes together in the end.
Like it knows where it's going, or that it's building towards anything, and partly because of a sharp decline in the quality of their movies. Marvel's
sharp decline in the quality of their movies. Source, please? Because the deal with Marvel, and I've brought this up before, and I'll say it again, MCU movies are not typically fantastic. Now, I will say, like, stuff like, Winter Soldier, Civil War, the first Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame, they're pretty top tier superhero movies. But, like, a lot of these movies are just kind of fine. Like, nobody would ever argue that, like, Thor the Dark World is, like, a fantastic classic movie. Because most people don't even remember that movie fucking came out. That was so dull and uninteresting. The thing about MCU that makes it special isn't that it's all great works of art. The thing about the MCU that makes it special is, honestly, that hasn't shit the bed. Like, Fox Marvel stuff, like, if you remember back in the 2000s when Fox was the big brand making all the Marvel stuff, they had shit the bed quite a few times by the time they'd been this many years into their franchise. Like, a lot. Like, we already had a whole bunch of fucking Fantastic Four movies that were garbage. We had some bad X-Men movies. X-Men Origins, Wolverine, ugh. Yeah, most of these comic book companies who have attempted this have shit the bed quite a bit. MCU really hasn't shit the bed at all. They've had some meh movies. Plenty of meh movies, in fact. But they haven't shit the bed.
Suffered a series of embarrassing flops and underperformers over the past 3 years, meaning there's less and less...
Shang-Chi, I thought actually did alright for, like, its budget. Because, like, you can't tell me they expected Shang-Chi to be a huge movie. And then, like, you're bringing up, like, Loki. We don't know streaming numbers. I know it got lots of online buzz.
And flops and underperformers over...
Thor Love and Thunder got, like, $750 million, didn't it? That's a solid box office take, dude. Like, What do you expect him to get for a Thor movie? That seems reasonable. Now, if you want to say, hey, budgets are getting really big and movies need to be less expensive, I agree. Budgets are getting really big. That is actually probably the biggest thing hurting the MCU because, honestly, the box office takes are about like what they've been. Like, well, obviously the Marvels is kind of an outlier, along with Incredible Hulk back in the day. But, like, most of these movies are doing decent. But the problem is the budgets are blowing up, so, like, they need to make more, and, you know, you're going to have to spend less to actually start seeing more of a profit. But, yeah. I mean, that's the biggest issue affecting the MCU. It's the ballooning budgets, not the lack of box office.
Over the past 3 years, meaning there's less and less incentive to go see them.
Geek Prime brings up Ben Affleck's Daredevil, which was actually, yes, that was a Fox superhero movie. Ben Affleck's Daredevil, the theatrical cut, I'm not gonna lie, I thought was pretty rough. But then there's a director's cut that came out a few years later on DVD, which was surprisingly fucking decent. So, now Elektra's bad.
Yeah, superhero fatigue is a thing that's starting to cut into the box office, but more
it's been around forever. Superhero fatigue's been around forever. Let's get a grip.
specifically, what they're facing here is Marvel fatigue. There's too much content, and it's mostly shit. And
okay, it's mostly shit. Like, I mean, I guess that's just your opinion, man. Like, I think it's mostly been fine. Like, it's been consistent with fucking Marvel forever, where it's just kind of like you get some like gems, and then a couple of things are kind of like, fine. It's not gonna blow my mind.
as a result, it's souring.
And then as for like stuff getting overproduced, yeah, Disney wanted them to produce more Marvel stuff for their new Disney Plus platform. And yeah, it was burning people out. It was burning out Kevin Feige. And so they're producing less now, which is good. I think they should produce less because it was getting a bit ridiculous.
People on the entire brand. 2, there's no big names attached to it. Harsh.
There's no big names attached to it? The fuck? Like, again, like, I always have to go back to this example, because that's a shitty example. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. Like, everybody knows who those people are now, but not then. Like, Chris Pratt was the dude from Parks and Rec. Not only that, he was the fat dude from Parks and Rec. So him to get in shape and do that, like, everybody was like, what the fuck? And then James Gunn was just this dude who made B movies, who made cringy jokes on Twitter. Probably, without a doubt, the biggest names in that movie involved were Vin Diesel and fucking Bradley Cooper, who were just fucking voices of a fucking raccoon and a fucking tree. So, like, this argument that, like, oh, there's no big names attached, that's why it flopped. Dude, Guardians of the Galaxy succeeded. That's, no.
As this may sound, none of the actors in this movie are.
Brie Larson is way bigger than anybody who was in Guardians of the Galaxy back in the day. Well, besides the 2 I mentioned, the voice actors. The actual physical actors who were in Guardians of the Galaxy, like Brie Larson is bigger than they are now. Than they were then.
The kind of box office draws that a film like this desperately needs to generate buzz. Iman Vellani, Zawe Ashton, and Teyonah Parris are all fucking nobodies. Brie Larson's only high-profile role was.
Yeah, and Samuel L. Jackson's in this too. The fuck? Everybody knows who Samuel L. Jackson is. What the fuck are you talking about?
In the first Captain Marvel 4 years earlier, and at this point, even Samuel Jackson isn't all that exciting, partly because he seems determined to appear in every single movie getting made, so his presence isn't exactly a big event anymore, and
That's always been Nick Fury throughout this entire franchise. Like, he's always been the guy who kind of is like the connecting tissue throughout the whole thing. So, like, oh yeah, he's appearing yeah. That's kind of the cool aspect of Nick Fury, because he's in a lot of this shit, and he's like almost the one face that you can see throughout most of it. And, you know, part of it is because Samuel L. Jackson is a Marvel fan, and he was excited to get the role. So, like, yeah, I'm sure he gets paid a pretty penny, but, like, he wants to do it, too. So, like, you know, fuck. I'm all for it, because Samuel L. Jackson's fucking awesome. I love his Nick Fury.
Partly because nobody cares about his character now. Nick Fury's been gradually broken down and deconstructed in recent years to the point where the coolest character in the MCU, played by the coolest actor in Hollywood, feels more like a fat, embarrassing middle-aged dad trying to hang with his son's friends.
Can you give me a source on that? So listen, you want to say Secret Invasion was disappointing? I'm right there with you. That was fucking disappointing. I was looking forward to that, and it was just kind of like, eh. And the ending was not good. But Samuel L. Jackson's character in Secret Invasion, totally, like, I didn't have an issue with Nick Fury at all. I thought Samuel L. Jackson did a great performance in that. Like, especially the stuff with him and his wife. I thought that was good shit. That's, honestly, I would say the strength of Secret Invasion was the relationship between Nick Fury and his wife. And then some of the stuff he had going up against Rhodey, that was good too. Don Cheadle was excellent in that series as well. That series, you know, I cut it into its own video. Like, we have the full podcast on it, and I cut into its own video that's on this channel. You can go look it up. But that series was disappointing. The ending was very disappointing. But, like, there's good stuff, and Nick Fury is definitely not a weak part of that series. He was awesome.
Which brings me along to my next point. Number 3, there's no popular characters. The movie...
Nope. Okay, so you already brought up Nick Fury. Like, Captain Marvel's here. Miss Marvel is, it seems like she hasn't really taken off in the MCU, but, like, she's one of the more popular new comic book characters in the books. No popular... It seems like a weird take. Okay. And again, I have to cite Guardians of the fucking Galaxy. Guardians of the goddamn Galaxy. Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel are way more popular than the Guardians of the Galaxy were back in 2014. Way more.
The movie features a trio of female superheroes at its core, 2 of which have only appeared in obscure Disney Plus shows, and a third which was never...
Okay, obscure? Like WandaVision is considered obscure? And Miss Marvel, we don't know what the ratings are. Judging from how often you guys covered it, I guess it wasn't great, because that's the best metric I found for whether or not something gets views. It seems fairly reliable. That being said, Miss Marvel got very good reviews, and honestly, what I thought was interesting was I thought the superhero stuff in Miss Marvel was probably the least interesting stuff. I like the stuff with her family. I like the backstory stuff about, like, the partition and stuff like that. I thought that was really interesting. And I like the character. I thought the character was great. It's not a perfect series, but it's solid. And then WandaVision was honestly pretty fucking good.
Never popular in the first place and has barely been seen in over 4 years.
Okay, so barely been seen in 4 years. She's had cameos, numerous cameos. She had a cameo in Miss Marvel. She had a cameo in Shang-Chi. Obviously, she was in Avengers Endgame. Real quick, there was literally one of those years that nobody was in called, 2020. I don't know if you're familiar with this critical drink. I'm going to take you back to the past. I don't know if you're familiar with recent film history. But anyways, in 2020, there was, 3 movies released before theaters shut down because they were non-essential. There was almost nothing. There was, Birds of Prey came out that year. That's it for, superhero movies. There's almost nothing that came out that year because they were all shut down and everything got postponed and pushed back. So, one of those years is a wash. So, at worst, you could say barely appeared in anything in 3 years. Okay, how much do you want her to appear in? Because this is the first, direct sequel to Captain Marvel. You might, what you usually get in between the sequels is, little cameos, she has been doing. She hasn't been in a starring role in something except for, Endgame. That's it. And even her role in Endgame wasn't huge. But, what are you looking for, man? It seems like a weird fucking standard.
Yeah, I know there's still a few die-hard Marvel NPCs out there that'll literally defend anything shat out by the MCU, and just love to point out that the first Captain Marvel made over $1 billion, and
because it did. I know you were triggered by simple facts, Stinker, but it did. It made over $1 billion, just saying.
Time when every fucking Marvel movie was making $1 billion.
Really? Really? Every Marvel movie made over $1 billion. What about Ant-Man and the Wasp? What about that one? It's interesting. Every Marvel movie made $1 billion. Every single one. You sure about that? You sure? My voice is getting high for some reason. You sure? You sure? I think Stewie Griffin did something like that. All right. Ant-Man and the Wasp was literally the first MCU movie to come out after Infinity War. It came out like 2 months after Infinity War. And it only did 600 million. 600 million is a pretty good box office take, by the way. But yeah, 2 months after Infinity War, this is 600 million. And then Captain Marvel came out, I want to say March, and that did $1 billion. And then in May we had Endgame, and that was like fucking $3 billion. But yeah, like every movie's making $1 billion. Not all of them. Not all of them. Just gonna point that out. Now I know facts offend you, Critical Drinker, but yeah.
In reality, though, it was the most protected movie in history. The review score...
The most protected movie in history? Okay. He's going to bring up the fact that it got review bombed, and how Rotten Tomatoes changed the reviews to be able to do an audience score after that, and be like, oh, Rotten Tomatoes changed the rules to defend Captain Marvel. It's like, well, actually, it was more to just actually make sure you're getting an honest review in there, but...
Scores were carefully managed to give it the most positive rating possible, and it was released under the most favourable market conditions that have ever existed, conveniently sandwiched between two of the biggest films in the entire MCU, when it...
Just like Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp was sandwiched right in between them. It did do $1 billion. It didn't even come close to $1 billion. But this movie did. What does that tell you, Dinker?
Excitement for the brand was at a fever pitch, with a marketing campaign that somehow managed to convince everyone that it was going to be an event movie on the...
Wait! So marketing sold Captain Marvel? But you were just making the argument that, like, marketing wasn't a good reason for saying the Marvels failed, because they weren't able to do all the proper marketing. But wait, marketing will help Captain Marvel, but it's not going to help the Marvels? Huh. It's weird how, like, this thing will be true for one thing, but not for the other. Like, when it fits your narrative, it'll be true, but when it doesn't fit your narrative, it's not true. That's weird. It's almost like you have a bias. It's weird, right?
The same level as Infinity War and Endgame. Put simply, it wasn't. But by the time everyone realised that fact, it was too late and the movie had made bank. Either way, the point is that...
Oh, is that what happened? Is that what happened? Like... So almost 2.78 legs. Actually, towards the bottom of projections. Still, it's well within the expected performance. That being said, yeah, it made its money over time. Like, you almost want to act as if it made it all in its opening weekend and then it just fucking bottomed out. And, like, yeah, lots of Marvel movies are like that just for hype, but, like, it not completely... No.
That nobody was particularly invested in Captain Marvel as a character, mainly because she didn't really have one. She was a perfect example of what Gary likes to call the hero's journey, a wishful...
Oh yes, let's reference Nerdrotic, by the way, because Nerdrotic is known for insightful and totally not sexist and bigoted takes. Cool.
Fulfillment power fantasy that starts out strong and awesome, is liked by almost everyone, wins at everything to become even stronger and more awesome, and eventually realises that the only thing holding her back from god tier level of awesomeness is the rest of the world failing to accept how amazing she is. I mean...
Is that it? Is that it? I feel like you're simplifying it quite a bit. So, like, she spends most of her life essentially having her powers suppressed by the Kree, and then figuring out the Kree are villains, and then you want to argue that reveal could have been handled better? Yeah, I absolutely agree. That reveal and her realizing that, This group that she had dedicated her life to and spent years of her life fighting for had been lying to her. Decades, honestly. She'd spent, 2 decades for the Kree? Or wait, was it that long? No, it was in the 90s, so years. She had spent years fighting for the Kree, thinking that these are the noble, good heroes, and then finding out that they have been lying and manipulating her. I would have liked more of a scene where she freaked out, but she found out they were lying and manipulated her, and then she stood up and she figured out that, she had the true power and that she could, do the good guy stuff and was more powerful than she ever even realized. Which is pretty standard stuff. I mean, another example of a character frequently kind of treated like this, where they're kind of, that's the thing. It's not even a 1-to-1, because Captain America is a character who's kind of always right and the world's kind of wrong, and he has to kind of fix the world, and that's kind of the arc of those movies to a degree. Not so much Civil War, but Winter Soldier and First Avenger very much have that arc, and they're fucking good movies. Captain Marvel, she is kind of she's kind of a villain in the beginning of this. She's kind of has to figure out her own way. She's not just doing villainous stuff because she's not a bad guy, but she's working for the bad guys, and she has to figure out that, oh, these are the bad guys, and and she has to move on past that. You're treating her like she's perfect throughout. She's not.
Really, is it any wonder that people didn't connect with a character like that? And the thing is, she's not exactly alone either, which brings me neatly on to number 4, the MCU.
MCU! He said it! He said the thing! He said the thing! The thing! He said thing. Now there's going to be a whole bunch of chuds in the audience screaming MCU. He said the thing that they'll like. So now he'll get some views and prize some likes from people just going like MCU. I'm not sexist for thinking MCU's a thing. It's really pathetic, man.
After disposing of Ike Perlmutter, who was basically the only thing keeping the MCU on track, one of Kevin Feige's stated objectives was to introduce more female characters.
Ike Perlmutter. That is a name I know. I kind of want to do a deep dive into him, but let's not. But it seems familiar that I think he might have been the guy who was kind of stopping Kevin Feige from doing Black Widow and shit like that, because he wanted to do a Black Widow movie. And then once, he's getting into it right there. Marvel wants to build an MCU with over 50% female superheroes. Cool! I am down for more superheroes with vaginas. That sounds pretty fucking cool to me. Of course, I guess female doesn't necessarily mean vagina. We could have a trans woman in there. I'm all for inclusion. Let's do that. I see no problem with that. I don't... Kevin Feige says he wants more female superheroes, and I'm cool. And you guys are oh my god, how dare you? And it's who gives a shit? Move on. It sounds fine. Why are you so offended by more women on screen? Why is that, get to your sensibilities? That's the more pressing question. Not that he wants to add more female superheroes, because there haven't been that many. I guess there's overall in the MCU they've had all right women superheroes, but they haven't had them in starring roles really much at all, and that's something that it would be worth boosting up. And why does that offend you? If that offends you, that's seriously something where you need to look internally and be why?
Characters into the MCU. In fact, he wanted more than 50% of Marvel heroes to be female. Now, a smart writer could have found ways to gradually introduce cool, interesting, well-rounded female characters to complement rather than undermine the existing male heroes.
How do they undermine? Are you just gonna say that and move on? Probably. I know you do, which is why I feel the need to address it, but you're gonna actually address that shit?
you know, proving the point that both men and women are pretty awesome in their own ways, and that when they work together and
The number of views for this video when I clicked on it were about 500,000.
instead of against each other, great things can happen. The writers at Marvel were not smart, however. Instead, what we ended up with was a
Jane Foster was probably one of the best parts of Thor Love and Thunder. Like, you want to go after the fucking CGI visual effects of Thor Love and Thunder? I am game. In fact, you know, maybe exclusive to CGI, because there's, like, cool ideas for visuals, like how Jane Foster's Mjolnir would, like, split off into different shards and then come back together. Like, that's a cool visual idea, but, like, a lot of the effects were faulty. How they handle her character is fantastic in that movie, though. Definitely one of the strengths.
relentless deluge of smug, generic
Sylvie was fine, and so was Yelena. Like, you just gonna show women and say women bad? Because that seems like all you're doing right now, dude.
overpowered, patronizing boss bitch.
Well, She-Hulk's a really bad example because she was being a bratty bitch in that first episode. Dude, like, I hate the fact that I always have to defend She-Hulk because She-Hulk is a flawed series. I don't love it. It's got some good episodes and some meh ones, like the fucking MCU, in general. But, like, the way you guys misconstrue the first fucking episode blows my mind. She's being a fucking bitch in the first episode. She's being awful to Bruce, frankly. Bruce is literally just trying to give her the tips she needs to get by, and she's like, I got this, you don't need to tell me shit. And then eventually she loses it. And it's like, oh, well, maybe you fucking should have. I don't know.
She's that the scripts were painfully eager to depict as smarter, stronger, more capable, more righteous, and more assertive than...
Okay. There's just one of these examples you go through, and I'm going to have to pause it.
More capable, more righteous...
So there we go. We have Wanda from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness as an example of a perfect woman who is just awesome in every way and just... She's a fucking murderer in that movie. She is insane and killing people in that movie. She is not an example of a perfect woman. She's an example of an insane woman. Like, the way you guys misconstrue this stuff has to be on purpose, right? It has to be. Because you can't watch Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness and think, oh, they're portraying Wanda as the perfect person. No! She is literally the fucking villain. She is literally killing people to bring back kids from an alternate dimension. Like, her whole plan is fucking insane, but it kind of works because she is fucking insane in that movie. She is off her fucking rocker. So this idea that, like, oh, that, you know, she's an example of the MCU just being perfect women all over the place. No. You're insane. You're clearly, like, this destroys your whole thing, because, like, this is clearly just you trying to sell your fucking narrative to your fucking fans. And frankly, you're abusing your fans when you do that shit. You are. You are just, like, feeding them lies and bullshit. And then they'll start, like, regurgitating it into my fucking comment section, which they love to fucking do. And, dude, like, I have no other fingers to point but at you, Critical Drinker, when they do shit like that. Because you're lying to them. You are feeding them a bowl of shit and then telling them these are facts and these are, like, this is what you must preach to other people who might refute it. And it's all bullshit.
And more assertive than the dumb, timid, outdated imposters now wearing our favourite heroes.
Is that what these guys are? I thought they were people who were still frequently starring and stuff.
Like skin suits. They usually excelled in traditionally male-dominated fields like science, technology, aerospace, and engineering. They were...
Yeah, because women can never ever excel in that. Just seriously, dude, come on. What the fuck?
were often completely self-taught, and of course, they never...
Yeah, because they could never do that? Again, what the fuck?
...needed help from a man, and by...
Oh, fuck. I have to address this fucking thing again. This fucking Loki gets kneed in the balls. Okay.
Of course, they never needed...
I will fucking do it again, because you guys won't fucking shut up about it. I will address this again. He's getting kneed in the balls because he's a fucking villain. That's it. He was a villain. This is part of his arc from coming back from being a villain. Like, how do you not fucking get this? This is Loki, fresh off the first Avengers movie. Fresh off it. He's getting kneed in the balls because he's a piece of shit. Not because he's a toxic man. I mean, I guess you could argue he is a toxic man, but that's just because he's also a fucking mass murdering psychopath. And he, Jesus Christ. The way you fucking misrepresent this shit blows my mind.
Help from a man. And by God, Marvel really went all in with this one. If a movie or TV show happened to have a male lead, you could basically guarantee there would be at least 2 or 3 of these strong female supporting characters hovering around him, making fun of his grandiose posturing and consistently outperforming him in every possible way.
Okay. So earlier this year, we had Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I don't really recall them really making fun of Scott, but like I said, Wasp was in the title of that movie, and she was like the 4th lead character. Like, she was probably behind like Cassie and Janet. Definitely behind Janet. Janet was probably number 2. But Cassie and Janet were even behind Scott. Scott was predominantly the main character and the main hero of that movie. Pretty, like, as objectively as you can get in art. That'd be the best way to define it.
On the other hand, if the movie was female-led, then the favour was absolutely never returned, because of course, that door only ever swings one way. And while this...
Does it? I mean, I just love how you show clips, and lots of times you're misrepresenting these clips, and then lots of times you're just... You don't even bring facts with you, man. Like, has there never in MCU history been a man who takes a pot shot at a woman? Or makes a joke at a woman's expense? Probably there has been. Now, if you want to say they do it less, maybe. Maybe. I mean, there is a cultural thing to do it less. And maybe they should try to avoid that, sure. But I can guarantee you, like, that has happened. Because, like, when just... and that's the thing I want to also stress. Like, a lot of pot shots even made at men in these movies are just, like, between friends just fucking around with each other. That shit happens all the fucking time. Like, all the time. And literally, like... Okay, so, I cannot stress this enough. If you're talking to a woman, and she, takes a pot shot at you, and kind of makes fun of you, like, you have, like, the universe's permission to go ahead and make fun of her a bit, too. Like, that's fine. Like, just don't be an asshole about it. Like, as long as it's all, like, being friendly and fun, who gives a shit? For fuck's sake.
This isn't a very diplomatic way of putting it. Fuck me, that shit became real old real fast. The resulting oversaturation of poorly written, superficially strong but fundamentally unlikable female characters was soon mockingly labelled the MCU, and the result was...
Yeah, totally not a sexist term. Yeah, you guys are winning, by the way. How's the Chudpocalypse going?
A gradual souring of audiences towards any new female characters. People just didn't trust them anymore because they knew exactly what they'd be getting when one of them showed up. Just another smug feminist power fantasy here to put men in their place and pander to the female
he's spinning his wheels at this point. Oh my god.
Demographic. And really, Captain Marvel pretty much set the tone for the MCU before it was even a thing. She was the quintessential Marvel girl boss, always strong, always being told how great she is, never vulnerable.
Okay, so you do know that part of like them like talking about how she's learning and she needs to learn, like that was part of them like suppressing her and keeping her down, right? Did you pick up on that part of the movie? I mean, I'm pretty sure you did, because you're just lying at this point. Like, the fact that you're bringing up Wanda and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness as an example of Marvel always representing women as being perfect and great just shows that you have to be lying. You cannot watch that movie and think that, oh yeah, they're bringing her up as a perfect woman. Get a fucking grip, dude.
Vulnerable, weak, or flawed, and ultimately it's so physically powerful that she was practically unusable as a hero because nothing could threaten her. After 4 years...
You mean how Thanos, like, knocked her off quite... Well, I don't want to say quite easily, but, like, once he got the Power Stone, he was able to punch her away quite easily. Like, that was a thing.
years have been beaten over the head by the insufferable girl boss archetype, it's no wonder the audiences were.
I need more sources, man. I mean, I'm sure you could point to some girl bosses. I don't. You know what? Let's just go ahead and start breaking this down a bit, because I'm going along with your rhetoric maybe a bit too much, because the whole girl boss archetype is one that I'm not even a fan of, because the whole idea is, like, could you make a woman character who is just entirely too assertive and you could argue toxic? Yes. And you could do the same thing with a man. The issue is not man or woman. The issue is, are you making a character who's so assertive and confident that they're kind of obnoxious piece of shit? And that could be a problem. Absolutely, sure. Does Marvel really have that problem? Not really. Not that I've encountered. Like, you want to say Captain Marvel's that? That's your opinion, man. I would disagree. But like, the girl boss archetype, I feel, is abused quite a bit, because it feels like it's used anytime there's a scene where a woman is, like, assertive. And it's like, oh, she's just being a girl boss. Well, maybe she's just asserting herself because it's good to sometimes assert yourself. And it's good for men and women to sometimes assert themselves. It's like, here's the thing, like, confidence in general is sexy. Like, if you want, like I'm sure plenty of chuds will end up watching this, because I'm probably going to cut this into a video. Confidence is good, but not overconfidence. There is that line you don't want to cross. Like, you want to be confident, but you don't want to, like, boss people around. And, you know, and that's good for, like, men and women, frankly. But, like, the problem is, like, it feels like anytime a woman asserts herself or is confident, you guys, like, label her, oh, she's a girl boss. Well, no, that's just being a reasonable human being, dude. Like, women are allowed to do that, and if you can't handle that, then that's a you problem, frankly.
Less than excited to go see a movie built around 3 of the fucking things. Number 5, it sucks.
Oh, thanks for the nuanced take, thank you.
I mean, I don't think that point requires much elaboration, really. The Marvels is basically a shit film with a bland, formulaic story that feels...
Again, I haven't seen it. Well, this is a good video for me to dive into without seeing it, because, like, he didn't really even cover much of the actual content of the movie until just now. And I do know there are movie reviewers, just off the top of my head, Dan Morrell and Christy Lemire. These are movie reviewers I don't always agree with, but I do respect them. They're not remotely chuds. They are serious movie reviewers, and they both pan the movie. So there is... It's not a brilliantly reviewed movie. It looks like the reviews are kind of middling on it. Okay.
Feels like it was written by a retarded AI, boring characters with nonsensical motivations, apathetic performances, crappy editing and visual effects, and absolutely no heart.
I'm willing to bet you it doesn't actually have all the stuff. They throw that shit at it all the time, like bad editing and effects, and it's like, well, editing, like, maybe I will watch it and think there's bad editing, but, like, here's the deal with editing. Like, if good editing is something you rarely notice. You rarely notice good editing, because it just has to flow. The story has to flow. And if the editing allows the story to flow, then that is good editing, and you don't even notice it. Will I go in the theater and find there's bad editing? Maybe. But I do have a feeling like you chuds throw shit out like that all the time, just knowing your fans won't know how to judge for it.
Or passion. In short, The Marvels was basically always going to fail, because most of the conditions that set the original movie up to succeed were now working against it. And it does make me wonder if this film might represent a turning point of sorts, an end to the bloated, predictable excesses of a studio that once believed it could do no wrong, an end to the tired, predictable girl boss trope that's blighted so many people's enjoyment of the MCU, and in a larger sense,
the girl boss trope that has blighted so many people's enjoyment of the MCU. You got some sources, dude. Like, what? It's just, it drives me nuts how often these guys just say shit and then, like, oh, what's your source? It's like my feelings and shit. Oh, well, fuck. Who cares?
an end to the reign of the big budget superhero movie. Next year is going to be a quiet one for Marvel, with only a single movie penciled in for release, and it does make me wonder if they'll use this lull in production to rethink their creative direction.
Oh, did they push everything out of next year? Is there only one thing left? I will look that up after this. That is interesting. But I know a lot of that had to do with the actors' strike and the writers' strike, because a lot of this stuff, if they haven't started shooting it yet, a lot of this stuff might be taken back to the drawing board. And frankly, it might be a good thing, because I want more writers' rooms going on. I want more people working on this and more ideas getting into it to get the best product possible. I kind of hate using product. Let's best movie possible.
Time will tell, but something tells me the failure of the Marvels is something they won't forget in a hurry. Now, just before I fuck off the drink...
Oh, you can get Critical Drinker merch. That's just a banger. Wow. I think that one took a while to go over. Holy shit. There's a lot to unpack, and Will Jordan is... He's just a fucking chud, I swear to God. Like, he's a chud that occasionally does a movie review that's mostly okay. But he is just a fucking chud. And frankly, when the chudpocalypse really starts taking hold, I guarantee you, he will change his tune very quickly and just start trying to sound like a normal movie reviewer very quickly. Because he's just in it for the money. He doesn't care about anything. He just cares about money. He cares about his 1.87. Oh my God. 1.87 million subscribers. And this video is already it's already gotten 100,000 more views from when I started. That took a long time to break down all the shit he said in that one. Jesus Christ. What a shitty video.
Books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow. It's the fucking truth.
Captain America 4 canceled after the Marvels flops? What the fuck? Just saying random shit? Just